Hello and welcome to another episode of the Minor Issues Podcast. I'm Mark Thornton at the Mises Institute. Well, I'm happy to get back to economic and investment-related minor issues this week. Most people perceive the word extractive negatively, often conjuring up images of pain and immoral behavior. For example, people associate the word with abortion, taxation, the exploitation of slave labor, or in the case of Marxists, all wage labor. The classic case is having a tooth extracted from your jawbone. In contrast, the most prominent uses of extractive in the economic sense are beneficial or even remarkable. The most common association with the word is the taking of metal ore out of the ground, extracting it, so that mining is the classic extractive industry. Human life without metal is a truly dreary thought. It's hard even to imagine, and most people do not even think about what life would be like without metals. And coal, oil, and natural gas are also extractive industries that provide all the power above manpower and horsepower, which makes life possible and enjoyable. Now, we are taught that the Stone Age was when man was a very primitive creature, visually not much advanced over the animals. Then, in quick succession, we went through a remarkable period of development in the Bronze Age and the Iron Age, when humans became broadly social and took on our modern characteristics, such as wearing clothes, speaking languages, using numbers, living in structures, congregating in villages. Building large, durable structures, transportation technology, electricity, and all forms of communication rely on metal, including the capital goods to build these systems. Think in terms of the old railroads and telegraph. And yet, mining and energy industries are portrayed today in an extremely negative light, without cause. The degree of negative perception is inversely related to a person's age. The younger and less educated and experienced people are more negative in that they view mining and energy industries negatively. The inverse relationship between age and antipathy towards extractive industries is a matter of psychology and propaganda. Let us put that psychology in full economic context and then apply it. We can then hypothesize the looming economic consequences. Psychology is a component of taste, and the negative association with extractive industries is a peculiar taste associated with modern environmentalism. Prior to modern environmentalism, there was conservationism that we naturally associate with private property ownership. A property owner utilizes or exploits their property in a rational way, considering cost and revenues and things like the interest rate and projected future revenues. Owners try to avoid waste and to take into consideration the future value of their property. In contrast, pure environmentalism wants to prevent the present and future use of resources entirely. Now, while there are some pure environmentalists that realized their full agenda would result in the quick shrinkage and disappearance of human society, most people with mediocre environmentalist ideology seem to believe that they can continue to have everything that modern society has to offer and more, and that environmentalist policies place no constraint on material progress of humanity. They can have their cake and eat it too. The have your cake and eat it too psychology, philosophy, propaganda, whatever you want to call it, has resulted in an immensely powerful ideology that first emerged, I guess, in the 1960s. In recent decades, it's become the dominant ideology worldwide. And it is this ideology that has impacted public policy in a powerful and systematic fashion. we can deduce the real-world impacts on markets, prices, and asset values. As such, this ideology has impacted real-world markets and the overall economy, driving up costs, creating barriers to human activities and associations, and reducing or holding back increases in our standard of living. Unlike most religions or social customs, the climate change ideology requires government interventionist policies on a global scale. Religions and customs only require that the individual person or group of people to participate. Environmentalism tied to climate change cannot be realized unless it can control behavior everywhere. For example, if Mexico were to entirely eliminate all pollution, it does no good if all their polluting activities simply migrate to Canada or Venezuela. In the real world, Canada has been trying to clean up its mining industry, but in reality, they are simply exporting the dirtiest aspects of the industry to places like China. Hence, environmentalism, also known as climate change, is a dictator ideology and necessarily relies heavily, like dictators themselves, on propaganda. How does this impact the profitability of mining and extractive industries? Environmentalist interventions into mining do impact the ability of mining companies to exploit their mines, but so far not by much in terms of the number of trucks and miners they employ to increase production at existing mines. The big effect government intervention has had on mining is on the cost and risk of developing new mines, access to government lands, permits, preconditions, oversight, regulation, fees, and of course, taxes and government royalties. And all of this can effectively prohibit the discovery, development, and exploitation of natural resources and mining in particular. Under the best circumstances, it still takes a period of many years to go from deposit discovery to first delivery of ore to the smelter. Government prohibitions and endless permitting process can extend that period for years or decades. In other words, yes, the market does respond quickly to higher prices in terms of more supply and conservation in the short run, but to make provision for the future, you need to develop natural resources in a more fundamental way, and that is discovering new mines. And environmentalist-inspired restrictionism has already prevented or stalled such development for years or decades. Countries such as New Zealand have used this approach for years, and the vast majority of U.S. state governments has done so as well. President Trump's drill baby drill approach is most welcome in this regard, but it does little to motivate state regulators to speed up permitting of new mines. Government intervention has smothered progress in many vital areas of need, such as cobalt, copper, silver, that are vital for the future of such recent technologies as artificial intelligence, electric vehicles, robotics, and alternative energy, and really anything else. I have asked students if they have any interest in the future of the mining industry, and they reply with a blank stare, and that they are interested in high tech or big business. Of course, these are precisely the areas that need new mines the most. And of course, mining is becoming a hotbed of new high-tech applications, such as the use of robotics, autonomous vehicles, mineral deposit detection technologies, refinery methods, recycling, recovery technologies. Unfortunately, environmentalism must teach against this reality, so schools and society only tell students that extractive industries are bad, immoral, and must be stopped at all costs. Reality is that everything we consume starts with the earth. Not surprisingly, there are also not enough students in training for mining to expand and to innovate. So this shortage will further delay the market response to our future needs. In the meantime, previously existing mines have been exploited at a higher than natural rate, so that in the absence of massive discoveries and surprises, we face a future of shortfalls and soaring prices in these extractive industries. We will also have to import labor to make up for the shortfalls in the high-paying talent positions. We will also have to rely on supplied materials and metals from foreign nations that have not discouraged such supply, such as China and their friends in Africa. This indicates potential profit opportunities in currently existing, operating or not, capital assets associated with the mining industry.